The first time Eleanor Whitmore told the story, she swore she saw a man standing perfectly still in the second-floor window of the abandoned house across the street. It was raining that night. She said the figure wore a dark coat and stared directly into her living room without blinking once. Her hands trembled while she described it to the neighbors the next morning, and everyone assumed it was simply another strange moment from an old woman who spent too much time alone. But 3 days later, Eleanor repeated the same story, except now the man was gone. According to her new version, it wasn't a man at all. It was a little girl holding something red in her hands. Then a week later, she changed it again. This time she insisted there had never been a person in the window. She claimed she saw furniture moving by itself through the dusty rooms, while every light in the abandoned house flickered at exactly the same time. People laughed at first. Some even recorded her from a distance and uploaded clips online. But the reason this story spread through the town wasn't because Eleanor kept changing details. It was because every single version of her story matched a police report from a different missing persons case connected to that same house over the last 40 years. And when one curious neighbor finally decided to investigate the house himself, he discovered something hidden behind the upstairs bedroom wall that should not have existed. Before this story gets darker, comment your city below and tell everyone where you're watching from tonight. And if mysteries, secrets, and disturbing neighborhood stories fascinate you, subscribe now to the Curious Neighbor's Diary, because tonight's story only gets stranger from here. The neighborhood of Blackridge Lane looked ordinary during the day. Children rode bicycles down cracked sidewalks. Elderly couples watered flowers on their porches. Delivery trucks passed every afternoon with the same predictable rhythm. But at night, something about the street felt wrong. Maybe it was because house number 18 had remained abandoned for nearly 15 years after the Bennett family disappeared without explanation. No furniture had ever been removed. No relatives came to collect anything. The police investigated for months, then eventually closed the case without answers. The front lawn grew wild. The windows collected layers of dust. And over time, people stopped talking about it altogether. That changed the night Eleanor Whitmore called the police at exactly 2:13 in the morning. Officer Daniel Reeves later admitted he almost ignored the call because Eleanor had become known for reporting strange things. Sometimes she claimed someone was walking through her backyard. Other times she insisted she heard voices beneath her floorboards. But that night her voice sounded different. According to the dispatch recording, Eleanor whispered only one sentence before hanging up: "The people in the house know my name." When officers arrived, they found Eleanor standing barefoot in the rain outside her home, staring at the dark second-floor window across the street. She refused to look away even while answering questions. Officer Reeves asked her who was inside the abandoned house. Eleanor replied slowly, "They keep changing faces." That sentence haunted him later because of what investigators would eventually uncover hidden inside the walls of house number 18. Before we continue deeper into this nightmare, take a second to like the video, subscribe to the Curious Neighbor's Diary, and comment your city below, because these stories bring together curious minds from all over the world. Now let's return to Blackridge Lane, where every version of Eleanor's story revealed another horrifying piece of the truth. The following morning, several neighbors gathered outside Eleanor's porch pretending to check mail while secretly waiting to hear her newest version of the story. Curiosity spreads quickly in quiet neighborhoods. Eleanor sat wrapped in a gray blanket, clutching a chipped coffee mug with both shaking hands. Her pale blue eyes remained locked on the abandoned house while she described what happened during the night. She claimed the upstairs curtains moved even though every window had been sealed shut for years. She said she watched a shadow cross from one room to another before hearing 3 slow knocks against her own living room window. The neighbors exchanged uncomfortable glances because Eleanor lived alone, and her house sat nearly 40 feet away from number 18. Nobody could explain how someone inside the abandoned house could possibly reach her window. Yet Eleanor insisted the knocking came from directly behind her while she watched the figure upstairs at the same time. One neighbor named Carla tried calming her down by suggesting stress or insomnia might be affecting her memory. Eleanor immediately snapped back with a sentence nobody expected. "Then explain why the wallpaper changed." Silence spread across the porch. Eleanor described the upstairs bedroom wallpaper in perfect detail. Yellow flowers with green vines peeling near the corners. The problem was simple. Nobody had entered that house in over a decade. Yet when Officer Reeves later searched old property photos from the Bennett investigation, the wallpaper Eleanor described matched exactly. The only issue was those photographs had never been released publicly. Someone asked Eleanor how she knew about the wallpaper. She slowly lowered her coffee mug and answered, "Because last night the little girl showed me." From that moment forward, nobody on Black Ridge Lane laughed at Eleanor Whitmore again. Officer Reeves became obsessed with the case faster than he wanted to admit. He told himself he only cared because Eleanor's descriptions kept matching evidence from old files. But deep down, he also feared the strange feeling that settled over him whenever he drove past house number 18 after dark. 3 nights after Eleanor's call, Reeves parked across the street just before midnight. Rain drizzled against the windshield while the empty house stood silent beneath flickering streetlights. At exactly 1:07 a.m., something moved upstairs. Reeves immediately sat forward. A silhouette crossed behind the dusty curtains. Human, slow, deliberate. He stepped out of the patrol car and approached the front gate, flashlight trembling slightly in his grip. Every instinct told him someone had broken into the property. Yet another part of him remembered Eleanor's chilling words. "They keep changing faces." The front door hung slightly open, despite police records confirming it had been nailed shut years earlier. Reeves pushed the door carefully and entered the dark hallway. The smell inside reminded him of wet wood and mold buried beneath something metallic. His flashlight revealed overturned furniture covered in dust so thick it looked untouched for years. Then he heard footsteps upstairs, slow creaks, one at a time. Reeves called out loudly, announcing himself as police. The footsteps stopped instantly. Silence swallowed the house. He climbed the staircase carefully until his flashlight illuminated the upstairs bedroom. Empty, but near the center of the floor sat a small red ball covered in fresh mud. Reeves stared at it in confusion because Eleanor had mentioned a little girl holding something red days earlier. He bent down toward the ball and suddenly froze. Someone whispered directly behind him, "She remembers you now." Reeves spun around violently, but the room remained empty. Only the wallpaper stared back at him. The officer left the house shaken but told nobody what he heard. Instead, he filed a report claiming he found evidence of trespassing. Yet the next morning, something impossible happened. The red ball he discovered upstairs appeared on his kitchen table at home. Reeves lived alone. His doors had been locked all night. He immediately searched every room, checking windows and closets while panic tightened in his chest. But no sign of forced entry existed anywhere. Underneath the ball lay a folded piece of paper, yellowed with age. Across the front, written in faded ink, were 5 simple words. "Ask Eleanor about the basement door." Reeves drove straight to Eleanor's house before sunrise. When she opened the door, she looked unsurprised to see him. In fact, her first sentence nearly stopped his heart. "You heard the whisper too." Reeves demanded to know who placed the note in his apartment. Eleanor ignored the question and invited him inside. Her living room walls were covered with handwritten notes, newspaper clippings, and rough sketches of the abandoned house. Some papers dated back nearly 20 years. Reeves realized Eleanor had been documenting strange events connected to number 18 long before the recent sightings began. Then she showed him something even stranger. Hidden beneath dozens of clippings was an old photograph taken in 1987. It showed a group of neighborhood children standing in front of house number 18 during a birthday party. Reeves immediately recognized one face in the picture: himself. He had grown up on Black Ridge Lane before moving away as a teenager. He barely remembered the Bennett family at all. But Eleanor pointed toward the corner of the photo where a small girl stood partially hidden behind the others. "That's Clara Bennett," she whispered, "the girl who disappeared first." Reeves stared at the photograph in disbelief because Clara Bennett's body had never been found. Eleanor explained that the Bennett family tragedy began long before the entire household vanished. Clara disappeared during the summer of 1987 after telling classmates that someone lived inside the walls of her bedroom. Adults dismissed the claim as childish imagination. Weeks later, Clara vanished without explanation. Her parents reported hearing noises behind the walls every night afterward. Scratching, whispering, sometimes even laughter. Neighbors gradually avoided the family as paranoia consumed them. Then one winter night, every member of the Bennett household disappeared completely. Police found dinner plates still sitting on the table, television running, front door wide open. No signs of struggle, no bodies, nothing. The case became one of the town's greatest mysteries before fading into forgotten history. Eleanor believed the house itself somehow trapped pieces of everyone who entered it. Reeves wanted to reject the idea immediately, but too many impossible things had already happened. Then Eleanor revealed the final detail she had hidden from everyone else. "There's a basement door no one ever found," she whispered. According to her, Clara Bennett once described a hidden staircase beneath the kitchen floor leading somewhere deeper than the basement itself. Investigators never located it because the entrance only appeared under certain conditions. Reeves asked what conditions. Eleanor answered quietly, when the house wants someone inside. That same night, Reeves returned to number 18 carrying old floor plans and a crowbar. He told nobody where he was going. Rain hammered the roof while thunder echoed above Blackridge Lane. Inside the kitchen, he pried apart warped floorboards exactly where Eleanor instructed. After nearly 20 minutes, the wood suddenly collapsed beneath him. A freezing gust of air rushed upward from darkness below. Reeves aimed his flashlight downward and discovered narrow stairs descending far deeper than the property records should have allowed. The staircase seemed endless. Each step groaned beneath Reeves's weight while cold, damp air wrapped around him like invisible hands. The flashlight beam barely reached the bottom. Strange symbols covered the walls, scratched directly into concrete. Some looked ancient, while others appeared fresh. As he descended deeper underground, he noticed faint whispering surrounding him from every direction. At first it sounded like random noise, but gradually, the voices formed recognizable words. Names. Different names repeated over and over again. Missing persons from Blackridge Lane. Reeves nearly turned back until his flashlight illuminated a wooden door at the bottom of the stairs. Child-sized handprints stained the surface in dark brown streaks. He pushed the door slowly and stepped into a hidden chamber unlike anything he expected. Hundreds of photographs covered the walls from floor to ceiling. Every image showed neighbors from Blackridge Lane taken secretly through windows over decades. Some photos were ancient, others looked recent. Reeves spotted himself in several pictures, including one apparently taken only days earlier while he slept in his apartment. Then he noticed something worse. In the center of the room stood dozens of mannequins dressed in clothing belonging to missing residents. Their faces had been carefully painted to resemble different people from the neighborhood. Reeves backed away in horror as his flashlight landed on the far corner of the chamber. A small figure sat motionless in a wooden chair. Little girl, red coat, long dark hair covering her face. Reeves whispered Clara Bennett's name. The girl slowly raised her head. Her eyes looked completely black. Then she smiled. "You finally came back," she said softly. The chamber lights suddenly flickered alive by themselves. Every mannequin turned toward Reeves at exactly the same moment. Reeves ran toward the staircase while the sound of footsteps exploded behind him. Childish laughter echoed through the underground chamber as mannequins crashed against concrete walls. He never looked back. The moment he reached the kitchen upstairs, the entire house began shaking violently. Dust poured from ceilings while whispers screamed from behind the walls. Reeves barely escaped through the front door before every light inside house number 18 illuminated simultaneously. Neighbors later reported seeing figures standing in every single window that night. Some claimed the figures waved slowly toward the street before vanishing again into darkness. By sunrise, police surrounded the property. Reeves tried explaining what he discovered underground, but officers found nothing beneath the kitchen floor except solid concrete. No staircase, no chamber, no photographs. Yet one thing remained undeniable. Clara Bennett's fingerprints were recovered from the red ball found inside Reeves's apartment, despite the fact that Clara disappeared nearly 40 years earlier. Eleanor Whitmore vanished 3 days later. Her house stood completely empty except for dozens of handwritten pages scattered across the living room floor. Every page contained different versions of the same sentence. The house changes the story so nobody remembers the truth. Police officially closed the investigation months later due to lack of evidence. House number 18 still stands abandoned at the end of Blackridge Lane. Locals claim the upstairs curtains move every night around 2:13 a.m. And sometimes, according to new residents, an elderly woman appears on the sidewalk warning strangers not to look through the second-floor window for too long. Because if the house notices you watching, eventually it starts changing your memories too. Years passed after the Blackridge Lane investigation faded from public attention, but the strange rumors surrounding house number 18 only grew darker. Families who moved into nearby homes rarely stayed longer than 6 months. Some complained about hearing footsteps on rooftops late at night. Others claimed televisions inside their homes turned on by themselves exactly at 2:13 every morning. Real estate agents eventually stopped mentioning the abandoned house entirely during property tours because too many buyers became disturbed after learning its history. Yet despite all the fear surrounding the place, curiosity remained impossible to kill. Teenagers dared each other to approach the front porch after sunset. urban explorers filmed shaky videos outside the property hoping to capture something paranormal. Most recordings showed nothing unusual, but once every few months, a clip surfaced online containing something impossible to explain. A shadow crossing upstairs windows, a figure standing behind broken curtains, or sometimes a faint childlike voice whispering directly into the camera microphone even when nobody else appeared nearby. One recording became especially famous after a college student named Marcus Hale uploaded footage from inside the backyard fence. At first, the video seemed fake because viewers noticed what looked like a little girl watching him from the upstairs bedroom, but investigators later confirmed the footage had never been edited. The disturbing part came near the end of the video. Just before Marcus ran from the property screaming, a woman's voice whispered clearly beside him. He came back too late. Marcus disappeared 2 weeks later while driving home from work. His abandoned car was found less than a mile from Black Ridge Lane with the engine still running and the driver's door hanging open. Officer Reeves retired early after Marcus vanished. Friends noticed he became increasingly paranoid over the years. He covered apartment windows with blankets. He disconnected every mirror inside his home. Most disturbing of all, Reeves began keeping journals filled with fragmented memories that contradicted each other. In some entries, he insisted Clara Bennett died before he was born. In others, he described playing hide-and-seek with her inside house number 18 as a child. The contradictions terrified him because he could no longer distinguish real memories from false ones. One retired detective later revealed Reeves contacted him repeatedly asking a strange question. If a house remembers people differently every year, how do you prove your own memories are real? Eventually, Reeves disappeared exactly like Eleanor Whitmore. No signs of struggle, no goodbye note. His apartment contained only one unusual discovery. On the bedroom wall, written dozens of times in black marker, investigators found the same sentence Eleanor once wrote repeatedly. The story keeps changing. Authorities never connected Reeves officially to the Bennett case because too many details lacked evidence. Yet people on Black Ridge Lane noticed something chilling after his disappearance. A new silhouette occasionally appeared behind the second-floor curtains at number 18. Tall figure, broad shoulders, police uniform. Residents avoided looking too long because the figure sometimes raised one hand slowly as if recognizing whoever stared back. And according to several witnesses, the face behind the window never looked exactly the same twice. One winter evening nearly 30 years after Clara Bennett vanished, a podcaster named Amelia Crow traveled to Black Ridge Lane determined to solve the mystery once and for all. She specialized in unsolved disappearances and strange local legends. Unlike previous investigators, Amelia approached the case carefully, studying decades of police reports before visiting the neighborhood. She interviewed former residents, examined archived photographs, and uncovered one disturbing detail hidden beneath old records. Every person connected closely to house number 18 eventually experienced severe memory inconsistencies before disappearing. Some forgot entire years of their lives. Others began describing events that never happened. Amelia theorized the house created psychological manipulation through environmental exposure, mold, toxins, mass hysteria, logical explanations. But logic weakened the moment she interviewed an elderly nursing home patient named Ruth Gardner. Ruth had lived beside the Bennett family in 1987. Most of her memory had faded with age. Yet when Amelia showed her a photograph of house number 18, Ruth became visibly terrified. She grabbed Amelia's wrist tightly and whispered, "Don't let it learn your name." Amelia asked what she meant. Ruth answered with tears in her eyes, "The house listens when people tell stories about it. That's how it grows." Hours later, Ruth suffered cardiac arrest before completing the interview. Amelia returned to her hotel unsettled but still skeptical. That changed at 2:13 in the morning when her podcast recording equipment activated by itself. She woke to static echoing through the room. Then a child's voice emerged from the speakers. Soft, calm, familiar. "Your version comes next." Amelia nearly canceled the investigation the following day, but obsession pushed her forward. The deeper she researched, the more impossible connections she uncovered. Missing persons, contradictory witness statements, old photographs changing details between copies. One image showed Clara Bennett wearing a red coat. Another version of the exact same photo showed a blue dress instead. Amelia sent both pictures to a forensic analyst who confirmed neither had been altered. By then, she stopped sleeping entirely. Every night she dreamed of narrow stairs descending underground while unseen voices whispered her name. Yet her biggest breakthrough came unexpectedly when she discovered a hidden storage box inside the town archives labeled simply Black Ridge Private. Inside rested dozens of cassette tapes recorded by Eleanor Whitmore years before her disappearance. Amelia listened carefully through headphones while Eleanor's trembling voice described increasingly bizarre events connected to the house. At first the tapes sounded coherent. Then the stories changed gradually with each recording. Different victims, different timelines, different faces in the windows. Yet one statement repeated constantly across every tape. The house survives through retelling. Amelia realized something horrifying then. Every investigation, every rumor, every online discussion about number 18 only strengthened whatever existed inside it. The entity behind the walls depended on people sharing the story. Suddenly, the room lights flickered violently. One cassette player activated by itself. Eleanor's voice filled the archive room with chilling clarity. "If you hear this version, it already knows you're listening." Amelia froze as footsteps echoed slowly behind the archive shelves, even though she knew she was alone. She turned carefully toward the sound and saw muddy footprints appearing one by one across the floor without any visible person creating them. The temperature dropped instantly. Amelia backed away from the shelves while clutching her recorder against her chest. Then she heard breathing directly beside her ear. Childlike, wet, uneven. "You changed the story wrong," the voice whispered. Amelia ran from the archives without stopping until she reached her car. Yet even after leaving Blackridge Lane, the nightmares continued. Her podcast audience noticed strange distortions appearing in newly uploaded episodes, unexplained whispers, sudden static, brief images of dark windows flashing on screen during edits. Fans initially assumed it was clever marketing. Then listeners started reporting identical dreams after hearing the episodes. Dreams about a hidden staircase and a little girl standing at the bottom holding a red ball. Amelia attempted deleting the recordings, but copies kept reappearing online through anonymous accounts. The story spread faster than ever across forums and social media. Blackridge Lane transformed from forgotten local legend into international obsession. Tourists traveled across states hoping to glimpse house number 18 for themselves. Several disappeared after trespassing onto the property at night. Authorities finally fenced off the entire street, but rumors continued multiplying online. Some people claimed the house no longer stayed in one location. Others believed anyone who learned too much about the story became part of it forever. Amelia posted one final video before vanishing completely. Exhausted and visibly terrified, she stared into the camera and spoke carefully. "If details in this story ever start changing when you remember them later, stop talking about the house immediately." Then she paused. Her expression shifted suddenly toward fear. Very slowly, Amelia turned her camera toward the dark hotel window behind her. A figure stood outside on the fire escape. Elderly woman, gray blanket, pale blue eyes. Eleanor Whitmore smiled softly at the camera before the video cut to black forever. Today, Blackridge Lane remains closed to the public. Government officials claim structural instability makes the area unsafe, but locals know nobody truly believes that explanation anymore. Satellite images of the neighborhood occasionally disappear from mapping websites without reason. Delivery drivers refuse routes near the barricades after sunset. And according to recent online rumors, new versions of the story continue appearing anonymously across forums every few months. The details always change slightly. Sometimes the figure in the window is a child, sometimes an old woman, sometimes a police officer staring silently through dusty curtains. But one element remains exactly the same in every version. Someone always notices the abandoned house watching them back. If you've made it this far into tonight's story, comment below whether you believe house number 18 was haunted, cursed, or something far worse. And tell everyone which city you're watching from right now, because these mysteries connect curious minds across the world. Subscribe to the Curious Neighbor's Diary for more unsettling neighborhood stories that blur the line between memory and reality. And before you leave tonight, look carefully at your nearest window. Just make sure nobody is already standing on the other side watching you first.